Now there's this Department of Energy study that says it's likely to have come from a lab leak, although the confidence is low. It cites the FBI. What is the determination by the FBI?
So, as you note, Brett, the FBI has for quite some time now assessed that the origins of the pandemic are most likely a potential lab incident in Wuhan.
Hey, what's going on, folks? Breaking news. So the FBI has said on Fox News and on Twitter that it now believes that COVID-19 leaked from a lab.
Let me step back for a second. You know, the FBI has folks, agents, professionals, analysts, virologists, microbiologists, etc., who focus specifically on the dangers of biological threats, which include things like novel viruses like COVID, and the concerns that in the wrong hands, some bad guys, a hostile nation state, a terrorist, a criminal, the threats that those could pose. So here you're talking about a potential leak from a Chinese government-controlled lab that killed millions of Americans, and that's precisely what that capability was designed for.
Awkward for Stephen Colbert, who tried to cover that up yesterday.
No matter what the Energy Department says, not everyone in the government agrees. You see, while the Department of Energy suspects it was a lab leak, 4 other agencies, along with a national intelligence panel, still judge that the pandemic was likely the result of a natural transmission.
Awkward. What's going on? Why are they saying this now? Why did Facebook delete so many videos talking about it in 2020? And let's replay the clip of all the imbeciles on TV who tried to act like this was a crackpot theory. That's the show, folks. We're live, breaking now.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles.
What's going on, everybody? Breaking episode because it's important news. The FBI Director Christopher Wray confirmed that the Bureau, the FBI, has assessed that the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic likely originated from a lab incident in Wuhan, China. So yesterday's conspiracy theory and far-right fringe talking point is now being repeated by the FBI. Very awkward for Stephen Colbert, who basically dedicated a huge monologue yesterday to covering it up. He's like, hey, Stephen Colbert, pangolin. And like, I'll just play this little clip real quick again, sorry.
No matter what the Energy Department says, not everyone in the government agrees. You see, while the Department of Energy suspects it was a lab leak, 4 other agencies, along with a national intelligence panel, still judge that the pandemic was likely the result of a natural transmission.
So I guess Stephen Colbert's like still pretending to be a comedian while being like a regime propagandist or whatever. He's like, he just does like these little things like clap, listen to me. But, yesterday the Department of Energy said they had low confidence in the lab leak theory. So Colbert was like running in circles because he'd been trying to cover up that theory for years for whatever reason. And he was like, oh, there's other people who disagree. Now I can't wait to not watch his show tomorrow when he talks about that. I want to show the receipts of all of the mainstream media people talking about what a crackpot idea it is. Of course, I have them. But first, I want to recite a poem that I wrote. It's a simple one. It's just 3 lines. I wrote it today on Twitter. I said, I thought it came from a bat. Now lock yourself inside the house and get fat. Get ready for your never-ending vax. Thank you. If you want to book me for, some Dr. Seuss work. I thought it came from a bat. Now lock yourself inside and get fat. Get ready to give money to the people who made the vax. Anyway, here's the receipts of all the psychopaths, journalists, propagandists, news analysts on TV who were laughing hysterically at this crazy kooky theory a couple years ago. Now the FBI director for Joe Biden also believes that theory.
In a lab in Wuhan, China. And yet this week, Donald Trump is still pushing the debunked bunkum, despite his own intelligence community's findings that is simply not true. On Thursday, the intelligence community released a rare statement saying they agree with the scientific consensus that the virus was not man-made.
Off the top of his head comes conspiracy theories on the internet. And even yesterday, you saw some of his supporters, some people on the internet starting to suggest that it was like a bioweapon, which of course, nobody said that.
Tom Cotton, one of Donald Trump's staunchest allies in the Senate, suggested that the virus might have originated in a high-security biochemical lab in China. In the 1980s, I remember when the far left trafficked in rumors about HIV having been invented in CIA labs. The far right has now found its own virus conspiracy theory.
But we close.
Yesterday's far right-wing conspiracy theory is today's mainstream media reporting, is tomorrow's Department of Energy belief, is tomorrow's FBI official narrative. So what's the truth? I have no idea. I had a lot of videos deleted with millions of views. Basically, if you want to know what CNN and the FBI and all these people are going to say in 2 years, just watch people like my reporting a couple years ago, because we're always ahead of the curve, and then we report on what it could be. They delete it, they lie about it, they cover it up, they call it crazy, they call it far right, and now embarrassing for Stephen Colbert and all these mainstream media stooges. Was that Al Sharpton with Joe Scarborough? Who's getting their information from Joe Scarborough and Al Sharpton? It's like, if you really want to know about viruses, just tune into Joe Scarborough, and Al Sharpton will really tell you about what labs are happening where. I want to go back to my poem again, because, I don't want to. Sometimes people say, Anomaly, you've gotten too cocky, and I don't want to say I'm Edgar Allan Poe, but I'm like a mixture of Shakespeare and Edgar Allan Poe with this one. It's truly complex work. I thought it came from a bat. Now lock yourself in the house and get fat. Get ready for your never-ending facts. I mean, that's got to be up there with Shakespeare. Anyway, jokes aside, it's just like so stupid and so obvious. Why do you think, this is my question, why do you think the FBI is breaking this news on Fox News? Why do you think the mainstream media is saying this now? Do you believe it? Do you think they're lying? Do you think this is a misdirection? A lot of people think the whole virus narrative is a misdirection. And it's just like a controlled op sort of circus where you're like debating topics that don't. I'm not a virology expert, but it's like the narrative always sounded stupid to me. It's like, you see that huge bio lab in China? Like, this is how dumb normies are. And I'm not saying I'm an expert on this stuff, because I'm still open to the idea that we're being lied to and this is a misdirection. I'm open to that. I'm just saying, it's like, here's the evidence that we had. It's like, there's this huge level 3, like the largest lab in China, whatever it is, like the Wuhan Institute of Virology is like the biggest virus lab they have in that area. But, it wasn't that where they're doing potentially, possibly, reportedly gain-of-function research. It can't be that. It's got to come from the wet market that could have come from anywhere in the world. It's not like people just started eating fish and stuff, but it just came from a bat at the wet market down the road, or the pangolin. Like, how? And then Colbert's out here like putting on like a little propaganda puppet show. He's like, he does like, I'm doing bad impressions, but he's like, it's a pangolin. Oh, folks. It's like so fake. Colbert is such a fraud. He's like trying to cover so hard. What's going on? I don't know, but it's like, are people really so stupid to be like, dude, you lunatic, like these crazy kooky conspiracy theories? It all switched. Like in 2018, if I came to a normie or a liberal or anybody, a normal conservative, and I was like, yo, the government's going to lock us down inside our house and sell vaccines and force vaccines on people, and basically like not allow you to function in society without a, mRNA shot where they, inject synthetic mRNA, and we're going to be locked in our house. People will be like, shut up, you conspiracy theorists. They're not going to do that. That's so crazy. They'd never lock down the world. And then they lock down the world, and then people get brainwashed by Stephen Colbert, and they're like, it's like literally a reverse. They're like, you crazy conspiracy theorists, it's just a lockdown. It's not a big deal. Go get your mandatory vaccine, and it came from a pangolin. I mean, duh. Like, what kind of a conspiracy theorist thinks that there's another narrative? I mean, it just came from a bat. Like, just grow up. Just, a Chinese person ate a bat and started a global lockdown thing. It's like, like the normies are so stupid. They're like, oh yeah, I watched Stephen Colbert and Al Sharpton, and now I know it came from a bat. And these kooky Trump supporters are just suggesting it could have possibly came from this massive, huge, lab right there where they're not doing gain of function or whatever they say. It's like, are people this stupid? Why do you think I already did a video on the World Health Organization pandemic treaty. I already did a video. Watch my last live stream. I already covered it, and I covered it more accurately than people that are freaking you out. It's not what people are saying. It's not great, but it's not like the lies that people are telling. Just watch my last video. I already covered it. But anyway, something feels weird about this because I know the American government is trying to fight China. That's one thing that like the left and the right, I call them instead of like the New World Order, that's old. That's a quote unquote conspiracy theory. I've rebranded it to the liberal gay world order. It's less offensive, because America, left wingers, right wingers, Mike Pompeo, Soros, Trump, we run around the world and we find countries that aren't super gay and we just make them gayer. We're like, oh, Russia's not gay, let's make them gayer. Like, the Taliban's not gay, we can make Afghanistan a little bit gayer. They're like, what about Syria? How gay is Syria? They're like, it's not that gay. It's like, we can make it gayer. I'm just kidding. I don't know. I just joke around and call it the liberal gay world order. I think it's like nicer than those other conspiracy theories. But anyway, it's like, left wing and right wing, from neocon to whatever, neoliberal, they all are like fighting China, besides the few that are working with them. You get what I'm saying? Like, they're clearly at odds with China. China's flying like weather balloons, or like tensions are rising because as the media tells you, oh, we're just helping Zelensky, raise money to rebuild with BlackRock or what. I don't know what they're telling people, but in general, people haven't processed that we're in the middle of a very complex war. Russia, China, Iran, we've made our enemies very upset, right? Like, so as we're doing all these things, the media acts like there's no consequences for what we're doing. And it's truly insane. It's like, even without over theorizing, when you fight a huge war that affects energy, that affects money, that sends tens of billions of dollars overseas, we already just got out of like a 20-year trillion-dollar war that went nowhere in Afghanistan. There is a cost to war. There's a cost of lives. There's an economic cost. There's a, ally to, I guess, people that we work with, even though China is a quote unquote not ally, they kind of are because we do trade and business with them. So we're doing all this crazy crap in Ukraine and the media acts like it's just like nothing. It's like, oh yeah, I mean, eggs might be expensive and we might have printed trillions of dollars because of COVID and we might be pissing off like all the world besides our allies, but like, it's going to come at a cost, is it not? So, like, we're raising tensions all over the world. They're flying balloons. This is happening. So the tensions are heating up between America and China. So now, all of a sudden, after the mainstream media and intelligence communities covering up this lab leak theory with China, acting like it's kooky and crazy and nutty, now all of a sudden they're telling people on Fox News, like, that's intentional. Christopher Wray, Fox News, why are they now doing that? Like, I'm not saying that I just play contrarian, but it's like, what is the benefit of them saying this now after 2 years? Like, are they just using this as leverage against China? Is this like a 3D chess move against China? Because they're like, oh, you're going to fly balloons and try to step up to us. Well, now we're going to try to, turn the global people, whatever we want to call NATO, etc. We're going to try to leverage them against you and really try to pin you for the virus. Something just doesn't feel right about how it's being leaked out now, basically, or. So I don't know what it means. I'm not here telling you that this is true. And this is for all, I always like to address the loser fact checker gremlins who sit in the basement. I never said I'm 100% sure it's a lab leak or I'm 100% sure it's a bioweapon. I never said that. If you watch my reporting since 2020, I think it's some of the most accurate reporting. And that's because not a lot of people tell the truth. Not a lot of people are able to say, here's what I know, but this is all I know. I've always done that. I've always said, I'm not saying it's a bioweapon, but here's a video of Bill Gates saying that a country could do a bioweapon. I'm not saying it's a lab leak, but here's all the evidence that it could be. I'm not saying it's gain of function, but here's the evidence of how gain of function works and how many scientists told Fauci not to do that. Here's the evidence of EcoHealth. Here's the evidence of the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Here's the evidence of, the vaccine industry. I've never come out and said, oh, I'm 100% sure it's a lab leak, because I'm obviously not 100% sure. And anybody that tells you that they are is probably lying to you, unless they're like an investigative journalist who's put in 4 years and traveled overseas. I've always done accurate reporting, and I'm not, trying to rehash old times, but you have to understand they've deleted and taken away so much from so many people for the crime of doing journalism and reporting that the regime doesn't want. It's like they decide when you hear about vaccine side effects. They decide when you hear about the lab leak theory. They decide when you hear about bioweapons. They decide when you hear about biolabs. They decide when you hear about gain of function. It's like, who do these people think they are? Just so crazy. And someone said I have a song called Bioweapon. Absolutely. Yeah, I have a lot of songs. So what? My music is different from my reporting. If I make a song called Bioweapon, it doesn't mean my reporting is invalid on what this all could be. But in general, it's a good song. Check it out. Anyway, streaming everywhere. Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. Watch the music video. Produced by Anomaly. Anyway, something seems a little interesting, but I think the takeaway that I've seen is they censored a lot of people. They took a lot away. We're definitely at odds with China right now, so it's an interesting time for them to roll this out. The FBI, all of a sudden, they made a choice to do that on Fox News. They could have done it on CNN. They chose to go to Fox News and be like, yeah, we actually agree with you, Trump supporters. It is a lab leak. And this is where I'm suspect of the liberal gay world order, And people will say, oh my gosh, that's so hateful. How could he say liberal gay world order? Why are you being a bigot? How do you know what I mean by that? It's like saying, oh, that, store's gay. And you're like, oh my gosh, that's so hateful. I'm like, look in the window. It's a gay store. It's literally called the gay store. And you're like, oh, I didn't even know. I just thought you were being a bigot. Don't assume my gender, okay? When I'm doing this live reporting, I am very, as they would call, two-spirited. Sometimes I transition into a level where I can't possibly be saying hate speech because I'm basically taking the space-time continuum and turning it into an ocean. So let's not accuse people here. But, when I say liberal gay world order, it is what I would consider, you could call it two wings of the same bird. Some would call it Zionism. Some would call it neocons and neoliberals. Some would call it the military-industrial complex. I am bored of all those terms, so I call it the liberal gay world order. They don't agree on a lot of stuff. There's not a lot of things that left and right agree on. They agree on selling Moderna vaccines. They agree on we need to regime change Venezuela and host the opposition leader in front of Congress. They sort of agree on Zelensky. They agree on BlackRock. There's only a few things they agree on. And one of the things that the liberal gay world order agrees on is we're fighting China for the most part. So I find it interesting that Christopher Wray went on Fox News to announce this because it's starting to give me vibes of 2000s where it's like, oh, patriots, we got to go fight the Muslims in Iraq. Or, it's like they get y'all hyped up because they know how to manipulate the right wing. It's like, throw an American flag, give them a George W. Bush, call it the Patriot Act. It's like Operation Warp Speed. They know how to name things and kind of brand it to make the right want to get on board with a war or something. And I'm not saying China's our best friend, but I do think that we are heating up tensions in Russia. We have absolutely escalated all this stuff, and the media just acts like it's not happening. It's like with inflation. They're like, inflation's not going to come. Of course inflation was going to come. Like Janet Yellen, that psycho or whatever. I'm sorry, Janet Yellen, please don't take all my money. I know you run the banks or whatever. Or wait, is that hate speech? I don't know. Do you not run the banks? Do you run the banks? I don't know what you do, Janet Yellen. What are you, the Secretary of Treasury? Should I pretend like you don't control the money? Like your job is to control the money, but it's hate speech to say you do. But jokes aside, it's like, they're on television telling me and I'm not a Peter Schiff. I'm not an economic genius or anything, but I'm not an idiot. And here's what people got to understand. You're not stupid either. So they treat us like we're stupid. And they're like, inflation's not going to come. You printed $6 to $10 trillion. What do you mean inflation's not going to come? You're being psychopaths all over the world. You're starting a massive war, or someone started it, where there's energy. Of course inflation's going to come. So they gaslight you on television. It's not a lab leak. Wait. Now it's a lab leak. It's just a little war. We're not going to send, Stacey Abrams tanks or whatever they're called. We're not going to send Stacey Abrams over to Ukraine, and then they send Stacey Abrams takes over to Ukraine. Jokes aside, I saw her in Nigeria. They're like, Stacey Abrams will make your election shape. Why is she in Nigeria? What? How is Stacey Abrams going to help their election? That's psychotic. But anyway, we're not going to send tanks. We're not going to send air missiles. We're not going to send... And then everything they say is a lie. They said 15 days to slow the spread. That was a lie. They said you could be free after you got the vaccine. That was a lie. They said the vaccine was going to prevent transmission. That was a lie. They said you couldn't talk about the lab leak theory and deleted videos. That was a lie. They deleted videos for people questioning masks, and now New York Times questions masks. That was a lie. YouTube lies. All they do is lie. So it's like, now, there's not going to be inflation. Of course there's going to be inflation. The question is how high and how long is it going to last? And all your friends that don't run the banks are going to play games with the interest rates and balance the books, and stocks will go back up again. But the question is, how long will that take? It's not a matter of whether it'll happen or not. And then these losers at NPR, they write an article and they're like, Anomaly's a conspiracy theorist who thinks that the pandemic was being used for government control. It's like, I don't think the pandemic was being used for government control. That's a fact. I'm not saying they planned it or this is all, but it's like anybody with half a brain is like, yeah, they're using this crisis to gain more leverage. I mean, the CDC and all these like executive orders, it's not even like my fact is like a conspiracy theory to the losers at NPR. It's all gaslighting. So this is all I'm going to say, and I'm going to end on this note. Why are they saying this now? Why is Christopher Wray saying this on Fox News? Why is this all coming out? Is it too much to cover up? Is it a misdirection? Are they trying to lull us into war? Am I too, looking into it too much and it's not a big deal? I don't know. Let me know what you think. Someone said sue NPR. I'm not petty. I'm not going to sue somebody. What I did is I made a video. I made fun of NPR, and my video got more views than them, and I made fun of the loser who wrote the article. So, I don't like to sue if I don't have to sue. It's just like, Anomaly is a conspiracy theorist who shared a CNN article about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. I'm sorry that all your loser friends who probably are way less successful than me, I'm not bragging, I'm just saying when someone steps to me like that, it's like, get out of my way, losers. But in general, it's like, I'm sorry that your job is to be propagandists, cover-up agents, PR, smear firm, idiot, losers, fake journalists for Big Pharma. I get it. All of mainstream media is like, Big Pharma's so great. Big Pharma's amazing. They've never made a mistake ever. I mean, just ignore fentanyl and opioids and the fact that millions of people are dying. And the fact that like Pfizer has one of the biggest criminal suits ever. Ignore history, the Tuskegee experiment. I mean, literally just play stupid and we'll all just pretend that Big Pharma would never make a mistake. I understand that that's what they like to do at places like NPR and CNN. And, it's like this one big like cover up for Big Pharma. Like, how much are they getting paid to do that? Are they brainwashed? Are they just like a cog in the machine where they're getting like, low income to just be like a little cog, Like the guy writing for NPR, it's not like he's a superstar. Nobody gives a crap about the guy. It's like, here, little loser, like go get my coffee and go write an article about how great Pfizer is. But I don't want to do that. I want to be a journalist. You can't be a journalist here. We don't do journalism. We're just covering up for the regime. Aren't these people ashamed of themselves? Joy Reid. People say I look cross-eyed. I mean, Joy Reid looks like, I don't know what she looks like, but she's like, toodles and poodles. I mean, Trump is talking about lab leaks. It's like, do these people believe themselves? Like, I don't know. Do they actually believe themselves? Or this is another question of the day. You know how like if you're just selling a product, like there's millions of salesmen in America. People sell whatever they're told to. Like here's 60 grand a year or whatever. Like go sell something. Here's 100 grand a year. Go sell. Like people work in jobs that they don't actually ethically agree with for money. Millions of people do that. Whether, I've done that before too. I don't think I'm unethical, but it's like I've worked at like CVS. I've worked at like ShopRite. It's like, do I believe in what they're doing? I mean, I don't know. It's not like the worst place ever, but they paid me a low income and then I just did what I was told. It's like stock the shelves, sell cigarettes. Like, I don't know. You want a heart monitor here. So it's like everybody works. I'm not saying it makes you good or bad, but like, that's just what people do. Do you think the people on TV actually think they're doing the right thing? Like, do you think they're like, oh, I believe myself? Or do you think people like Colbert, they're just salesmen? You get what I'm saying? They're high-paid salesmen where it's like, here, read the script about I know it's a script. It's not like he wakes up and thinks this stuff, but it's like, here, smear the lab leak theory, tell Jon Stewart he's crazy, like, do that. Like, do you think he goes into that being like, oh, I'm a real righteous person, like standing up for the truth? Or do you think like he thinks, I'm a piece of garbage. I just have to do this for money. And, it's just my job. The same way other people don't like their job. It's like, whatever, I'm getting paid tens of millions of dollars. I might as well do it. I wonder if they know they're lying. Because at this point, like, it's getting weird. Like, I get that you don't have to believe the lab leak theory. A reasonable person would do what I did and to be like, listen, I don't know if it's a lab leak. I don't know if it came from a pangolin or whatever. I don't even know if it's what they say it is. Because early on, it's like, how do I even know it's real? I'm not, like, what are you doing? A PCR test? Like, what? And diagnose, oh, well, you have a cough. And it's like, it was all very weird. So a reasonable journalist, even if you had a strong belief, like, I really think it came from a lab because the lab's really close. A reasonable person would be like, I think that, but I'm not really sure, but that's where the evidence is. They come out and just say how crazy it is. Same thing with like Damar Hamlin. I'm not saying I know what happened to him, but they're like, it's definitely not this. It's definitely not this. How do you know? You don't know it's not that, just like the right winger doesn't know that it is that. Like, you're both kind of lying, but you're both just thinking what you think. A reasonable person would be like, I don't know what happened to Damar. I don't know if it was that. I don't think it was. But I don't want it to be that because I like Big Pharma. But also, it could just be something crazy. I mean, it's very rare. It could have just been a bad hit or, he lost a heart skip. But a reasonable person would say, I don't know. I don't know which one it is. I think it's that, but we'll see. But the media just comes out and says, it's not that. It's not a lab leak. It's not that. The vaccine's the greatest thing. It's not that. The masks are amazing. Put it on. It's not that. It's like their job is to be professional PR operatives, basically. It's like, don't use your brain. You come to us. And you notice in those clips earlier, if you remember, or if you were here, they said, oh, the scientific consensus. That's a propaganda term in itself. There is no scientific consensus. If all the scientists in the world don't know how to build an airplane, and all the engineers in the world don't know how to build an airplane, and the Wright brothers build an airplane, guess what? The scientific consensus was not smart or innovative enough to engineer an airplane, and the Wright brothers were. So it's not a popularity contest. Science is not what the majority thinks. In fact, all of the greatest scientific inventions come from the scientific minority, the geniuses who were able to innovate and create something that everyone can't do. Is the NBA a net sum? All the basketball players say Michael Jordan will never win. It doesn't matter. If he's the best, his word goes a little further because he walks the walk. So the fact that they keep saying the scientific consensus says, it's a total propaganda term. When Kary Mullis created the PCR test, it wasn't well, how come no one else did it? Because Kary Mullis was very smart and he used to take LSD, and he says that contributed to it. I'm not advocating for it. I'm just reporting history. That's really what happened. I read his book. He was taking LSD. He was super smart. He started thinking differently. He was surfing, being a wild boy, and he thought of the PCR test. Who invented the PCR test? The scientific consensus of 99.999% of scientists? No. Kary Mullis invented the PCR test, and anyone he worked with. That is less than 1% of the scientific consensus. Every great innovation in science comes from individuals and teams. So yes, it does to some extent matter what people think, but sometimes the truth is not popular. And for sure in science, it's not about just bowing down to the government and the corporations and bowing down to the lab with the most amount of money. The whole thing is fake, and any smart person can see through it. But the problem is nowadays, people have ego. People that went to school want to think, well, I went to school, so I'm so smart. Wow, if you're smart, you're smart, but you don't have to tell yourself you're smart all the time. It's like, use critical thinking skills, because a lot of people have indoctrination degrees. It's like you went and listened. You followed directions like a lemming for 5 years. That's cool. You can read, you learn some stuff. There's a lot of great classes in school, but a lot of people mix education with indoctrination. So they just think they're so smart. It's like they're brainwashed with a PhD. It's like you still have to critically think. You still have to question. If you just went for 8 years and listened what the government and the media said, and you listened to everything and just never question anything, you're not a genius. You're an idiot. So the scientific consensus, that is the fakest, most propaganda term ever created. Although it is nice to hear what thousands of people say, That's not how science works. You still got to question, you still got to do experiments. And there are always thousands and tens of thousands of doctors and scientists who disagree. Say all the government scientists and tens of thousands of scientists say, this is what happens with the climate of the earth, right? And they say, this is the scientific consensus of 99.999. Is that real? Okay, what if 100,000 scientists or 10,000 scientists come out with a claim against it? It's not a popularity contest. Some of the smartest people went against the grain of everyone. And that's what made them special. Not the fact that they were every other scientist, the fact that they weren't, okay? And all the greats go against, create, innovate, invent, discover. And that's what science is. So really, it's like this fake BS left-wing communist ploy that it's like science means not to question. Science means not to innovate. It's why America's going to shit, because, you know, there is no innovation. They look down at anybody who's different and tries to build. So let's not get into that. Someone said, Anomaly, please leave that ish alone and talk about something else. You aren't going to be able to change anything ever. You are wasting your time. Well, thank you, Rena, for the positive words. I appreciate it. Anomaly, just stop talking about that. You aren't going to be able to change anything ever. I've already been able to change things in my life and others' lives. You know, it starts small. You can't lead everybody to water. You can't lead every horse to water, but you can help. But if you feel that way, it's like, don't talk at all. Anomaly, don't even say anything ever. There's no point. It's like, then go watch Wheel of Fortune. What do you want me to tell you? Pat Sajak and Vanna White spin the wheel. You could even apply to be on the show, maybe win some money. But it's like, what's your point? What are you? Who are you? I'm not mad at you. It's just like a weird vibe. God bless you guys. God bless whoever said that. God bless your family. God bless the world. That's the show for today. I tried to keep it short, but I have a lot to say on this topic. What do you think about the FBI going on Fox News to talk about the lab leak theory? Is it too big to cover up? Are they trying to raise tensions with China? Is it a total misdirection? Is it not even true at all? Did Stephen Colbert eat a pangolin to start the pandemic? You know, that's my new conspiracy theory. Stephen Colbert flew to South Korea, did a song with BTS, the K-pop group, flew to Japan, you know, ate sushi, and then flew to China, ate a pangolin with Jimmy Kimmel. And because they ate the pangolin, that's how COVID-19 started. That's a joke. That's my new fake theory. God bless you guys. God bless your family. Have a beautiful day and cheer up, Rena. Life is okay. We can make small changes bit by bit.